to our KUPES chat. It's always exciting to have you with us, and we've been looking forward to this, and I think there's a lot of preparation that was going on in the background, but we're finally here and we're very excited. So welcome to KUPES chat. So just for those who are not sure of what we do, KUPES chat is a platform where we invite men and women to come and have a conversation with our young women out there. Men and women who've done tremendous things that may have been deemed impossible to achieve, and we bring them into our space so they can tell us their story. Like I always say, I'm a believer of testimony. I'm a believer of story, because it is only then you can look at a person and say, oh yeah, if they can do it, so can I. And what they do for us, most importantly, is that these men and women continue to show us possibility. So wherever you're sitting today, you're here for a reason, and you're here to learn. You're here to listen to something that is absolutely amazing, a story, the things that we're going to be talking about today. So you are in the right place. So my name is Lady Norena, and I am founder for KUPES Young Women's Network. And today I have a very special guest, and I will try as much as possible to behave, and I'll tell you why. But before we get into the chat, we're still in COVID season, like I always say, so make sure that you do all the right things, take all the precautionary measures, and especially with the guest that I have here today, I will probably talk about that. So wash your hands, and please make sure you use a hand sanitizer, practice social distancing, just do the best that you can. Like I always say, we need each other. I need you and you need me. So tell us where you're watching us from today. If you're watching from Kasama, if you're watching from the Netherlands, if you're watching from Namibia, wherever you are, please just tell us where you're watching us from. Like I said, you're here for a reason, and I can assure you, you'll be enriched after we have this conversation. Without further ado, please, drum roll, allow me, or rather please join me in welcoming a special guest, Dr. Sharon Kapambwe, who is currently Assistant Director, Cancer Control at the Ministry of Health. A very good friend of mine. I'm sure you're tired of me talking about but this one is a very good friend of mine. We've been friends from
for decades.
For decades. I shouldn't say the year. Okay,
no,
all right, yes. So we've been friends for decades. I'll just say from primary school. So I won't even try to talk about the yes. Dr. Kapambwe, welcome.
I am so delighted to be here. It is so heartwarming to be able to talk to the young women, men out there who are going to listen to our conversation. I will try to behave, and I asked if we speak English only, but I'm good. I'm so happy.
You can throw in couple. I know, a couple of people have got a way of just throwing in, some bemba somewhere.
You
there.
know,
Yeah.
so we're trying to make sure yes, please, we'll do that.
So thank you so much. So our conversation today is on women's health. But before we get to that, you are an I'd like to say an award-winning doctor, and but also before we even talk about the awards, you're sitting at the Ministry of Health. How has it been, especially in the COVID season?
This has brought a totally different aspect that we probably didn't look at so much. The issues of health security, health security ensuring, and how anything that happens to our health security can actually break up our development, take us years back, because in the systems, if they're not strong enough, if they're not resilient enough to stand whatever is happening, then you find that everything can crumble.
Yes,
Only when people are healthy can we have development going forward.
That's true.
If we have people who are not healthy, then development is not possible. You need a healthy workforce for you to be able to achieve whatever you're achieving in whatever company you are. This has been a lot of work. People haven't slept in a long time. I know at the time in March, I was actively, when everything was just getting at its peak, I was in the task force and trying to organize meetings, high-level meetings, ensuring that, we're communicating to the AU, we are having meetings, with the other embassies and trying to see what is happening around SADC, COMESA, everyone. And There'll be times that you are seeing us doing the updates. That was because we started the meeting at 6:30 to hear what happened, how the patients are doing, and we do an update. We do a around country update before we come to the national update.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
When you finish the national updates, you rush now into, you know, AU meetings and their time changes. You've got all these different time zones. And again, you go into another meeting. So there were times you reach home, it's 22 hours.
Oh, wow.
And
wow.
you have to crawl out at 06 to make sure that you're listening and you have the latest information of what is going on. So it's been very busy. It's been very busy, but like I have said, health security is very important.
Right, yeah.
So we can talk about all forms of security, but health security, having diseases coming in, Ebola, you have the COVID that has come out, we had SARS. So you know that when these come, and with COVID having a shutdown, people are not working, the impact on lifestyle. I know we didn't really have it like a complete shutdown as a nation, but we did have things slowing down. People were not going for work. We couldn't go and do our hair. That means that the girl who does your hair is not making a living anymore. You know, the woman can't sail. I remember I went into North Main and the ladies were like, we can't even cook a lot of nshima because people haven't gone for work. Right, so those are the impacts that we never see of how it's affecting another life.
That's right. Yeah.
And then there's the loss of life that came with it. And all those are some of the tragedies that you start knowing, and then you know that we really need to make sure that every point in time in our country, health security is a priority.
Fantastic. How can we describe the situation now? Yes, we like you said, we didn't really close down fully, but now, I mean, we were able to go out more often. How can you describe the situation right now? So can you call it stable? We
can call it stable, and there has been a decline. Definitely, the cases have been going down over time, and stability and the number of inpatients has reduced drastically. We will be opening up Levi Monawasa, hospital, which is the university, the Levi Monawasa University Teaching Hospital. So it's supposed to open up to its usual, because it wasn't really meant to keep COVID patients, but we started using it as an isolation. So now it's been prepared to be commissioned and be used for what it was intended. Last we had very few patients, below 10 patients that were admitted to Levi Monawasa. So that shows that we're having stability. The worry is that people start to slacken. We have community transmission still going on. The fact that we're having some positive cases going on. And, one thing that I noticed, I don't know if you noticed, is that flu just went out. We didn't have flu. Every season we have all these flu running around. The number of people that have been running around with flus is because you've been washing your hands so often and you've been social distancing. So you've reduced the transmission of all these, and that means that we had upper respiratory tract infections being on the law. So that means that we need to keep up that.
Oh, wow.
We need to keep up that. You need to wash hands all the time. It shouldn't just be about COVID. It's a lifestyle.
It's a lifestyle now,
that we need to adopt. We should have always adopted it. But now we're given a rude awakening. So we need to make sure we do sanitize, wash your hands, keep a distance. And it brought in cultural perspective where we couldn't go into funerals, we couldn't go into weddings as we do, kitchen parties as we did. And for me, it was time to reflect. Are there some cultural perspectives that we need to have a second look at and see what is helping? Do we all need to be in one house? It has its own, and we can talk about mental health. The mourning together, you have a loss together in your mourning. It has a lot of positive to it in terms of mental health.
That's right.
Helping with the grieving that people are sitting together. But also, should we really be doing that? There's economic cost to it. There's diseases that we know now, a lot of transmission. It's facing reality. It's questioning ourselves. COVID came to question our very fabric. We were so busy. I mean, going from one place to another,
and you're traveling and everything.
Yes, and then all of a sudden I said, no more flights, you're not going anywhere, you got to stay home. Of course, COVID came in, another part of work came in. And I haven't been on a plane since February probably the longest in the last few years. But what this has meant is that I've had time to concentrate on other things.
That's right, yeah.
On my work in the country, really trying to go down, and it has given me a totally different passion that I didn't see as I was, you know, globe-trotting and everything. To go to the ends of this country.
That's right.
Has been amazing to see the country, to see the women, to see the girls, and hear their problems and see the challenges that they face.
Yeah.
So that when you're fighting for money around a bigger table, you will know who you're fighting for.
That's right, yeah.
And when you're making decisions, sometimes you'll be, oh no, they can just get this type of vehicle or what, and then you go into that terrain yourself. You will sit in that boardroom and say this can't happen, because we're totally talking about a different thing there. I've probably been to every end. I'm taking the districts. The provinces are done here. So you go to Chavuma, and you know, I go to Chavuma and I find, okay, there are people who've come in, they can't go back into their country, and we have this situation. You go to Chilubi, you have to get on a boat and be on a boat for some hours and get across, and there's water, and you still need to take health services. And you're going to go into Mafinga, and you've got a terrain where, you know, it's the hills, it's Mafinga Hills, and you're going into there, and you're going to see, you go through the park, you know, going to Chama, Luangwa, and at Muyombe, right there, you can see Malawi, you can see everything. You're going into Chienge, and you're seeing, you know, Congo DR. You actually find a language that I couldn't place. And all those things make me appreciate. It gives me a purpose, I think. It's just unraveled up different things in me, and fighting for different things.
Okay.
And yes, COVID was negative, but it had a positive impact.
I was going to say that, because if you had continued your, like you said, your globe trotting, you wouldn't have the opportunity to be able to see what else you can do in our country, because sometimes you get lost in what is happening. They're sitting in these round table meetings and having all these conversations. However, then you get to forget what is happening here. You said something very interesting about health security. And you said we need to make sure that we're healthy, so that then we can manage our, because even if we have all the time in the world, for as long as my health is not in check, even if I have that time, it will be futile, because then my health is, so we need to look out, you know, rather look after one, I mean, in fact, no, don't even look after each other, look after yourself. So it's not about really time management, it's about your energy management, about the things that you eat and all those things that are very critical to one's life. So
it's, you know, so we've got, for me now I've realized, you see, you've got the urban population, you've got the rural population. There's a very interesting aspect to urban population. You've got the urban health. And when I talk about urban health, I'm not referring to, you know, Kapambwe. Yes, they need health as well. But you look at the interesting health that goes on in unplanned settlement, and awesome planned settlement, but, you know, high density areas. Women will get out early in the morning from Kanyama, from Jonlengi, wherever they are, and they're going to sail. They have to send a child to school. They have to feed. And getting checked for something that they're not feeling any problem is very difficult.
Yes.
It's difficult for you and me, if we're feeling well, to go and get our breast checked, our cervix checked. And if my priority is to feed my family, I'm going to go there. Heavily pregnant, I'm selling the whole day. I go out, I get my vegetables. I'm arriving at 4. You know, I sleep, I go home, it's 19 hours. I leave, and I wake up 4:30 because I want to get the first vegetables, or is it bread, wherever, you know, you see them lining up at Pick and Pay. We have to restructure how we give health.
Wow.
As close to them as possible.
As possible, yeah.
So you've seen there's like market health.
I see what you mean.
You know,
yes, yeah.
Because I will not take one day to say, okay, today I'm going to check for my BP, today I'm going to check for my, you know, I'm going to check for my sugar, I'm going to have my breast checked, and it's a loss of my income.
Income, yes, and I've got a child to feed.
I've got a child to feed.
Yes.
I've got kids to send to school. So you see that some of the places that are being looked at is market health. take health where I am. And when you find a problem with me, then you refer me to something else.
Oh, wow.
Because if
Is that possible, doctor?
we have opened up one at Intercity, and you'll be amazed, even men's health, because, you know, we've talked a lot of women's health, we forget them, and then they're coming late, the other gender. So they come in late and everything. So we need to just look at this family and be able to see if we can have, and we've started, there's a community health department now, unit, which is looking at basically how do we get services at community level.
Fantastic. You know, we're obviously, because we're in October, breast cancer month, but for me it's like a holistic look at cancer. The last time we had you was way back, Dr. Kapambwe. That was 2016, and we went through all the paces in terms of what you need to look out for and everything. And one of the things that I know you've been a champion over, and especially even in your awards, have been towards cervical cancer and ensuring that, in fact, I think you've highlighted Southern Africa quite heavily when it comes to
Africa.
Africa, actually. Okay.
That's the Kampala stuff, Africa.
Africa.
Okay.
Wafia. So Africa. I call it the silent killer,
Yes.
cervical cancer. And before I even talk about my story, how is the situation now from the time that you started? And can we say that a lot of women have gone out and had themselves tested? And what is the importance of having, going for this testing? Because some of them are a little like, what will happen to me? How important is it?
So, you know, when we talk about cancer of the cervix, it's a highly preventable cancer. And when we look back at 2016, we were still probably at province level most of the time. The target has been to be to every district. And for me, I always say, look, if I find that every district has, a screening program, I feel like, God, this job has been done, that we have been able to go to places where we didn't think we would. 2016 was a lot of nightmares in the head, like, how am I going to get to Chilubi and put a screening service? We just opened one, by the way,
well done.
on Chilubi Islands at Santa Maria. How am I going to get to Chiengi? We open one in the next 2 weeks. So it's a silent killer, because women are, when you're feeling very well, as in yourself, you're not feeling anything, you can't see, you can't feel anything, is the best time to head to the hospital for us to check you. Because even if we found something, it will be so early that we'll be able to do something. And with cancer, outcomes are better when we detect early. So when we detect early breast cancer, early detection, we want to have an early diagnosis. We want to make sure that if it's cervix, we can prevent it. We want to make sure those young adolescent girls receive their vaccination. Their mothers, sisters, aunties get screened. And if we find something, we find cancer is already setting, we still have a cancer treatment center. Zambia is one of the few countries on this continent that has comprehensive cancer control for cervix. Oh, wow. Meaning that we can prevent, we can treat, we have surgeons. We didn't have a surgeon. When I come in 2016, absolutely no surgeon to be able to operate, because when the women are coming early, then we can be able to do operations so that they don't have to reach cancer diseases hospital. It just ends with them having surgery. So now we have specialized two Zambians. We have Prof. Param, who's been there for us through and through. And then we have the two gyno-oncologists who have trained, and they've coming, and there's one in training. So then the early cases can also be done surgically. How have we done? We're almost at 95% coverage at district level. So when somebody asks me, where can I go and get treated? I say, just go to the district hospital. You probably are going to find it. Just walk into your district hospital, there's a screening. And some places like Lusaka, Kitwendola, they have more than one clinic. So even those big hospitals, you go to Chimwemwe, you go to Buchi, you go to Ndeke, Luangwa will open up Chamboli. So all those, if you're not from yes, a bias to the Copper Belt. If you come, you know, to Lusaka, you're still going to walk. You walk into Kalingalinga, you walk into Bauleni, whichever way you're going to be coming, you're going to find it. If you go to Eastern Province, they've got over 25 clinics that are screening as a province. So amazing. Close to 1 million women in this country have at least screened once in their lifetime.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
We talk about this. I say that Pastor Kunle at the last conference said this to us. He says, it cannot happen to me is a language of the naive. Because this assumption that, like you said, I'm feeling all right, there's nothing wrong with me. Yeah. Why do I need to get up? So quickly, I'm going to just share my story. So this is busy. She used to force me to, no, you have to have yourself checked, you have to have yourself checked. I said, but I'm fine, there's nothing wrong with me. So there I was in my suit and told the team and said, I'll be back in a few minutes. Let me just go and have this, let me get it out of the way because she won't stop bugging me. Yeah. So I get to UTH and find a lovely woman. Her name is Anne. I just think she's lovely. Yeah. So I get there and it's like, I'm sure this is going to take, a few minutes. So she explains this is how a normal cervix looks like and this is how the other one, Then after she's taking her time. I'm like, now what's happening? Then she says, remember what I told you? This is what a normal cervix looks like, and this is how the other one looks like. Yours is looking like this, like this one. And I was like, no. Again, it cannot happen to me. I'm in an office. I am this and that.
I'm busy.
Yeah, and I'm fine. There's no way. How did this happen? But the good news is obviously that we went ahead and
remove the abnormal cells.
They remove the abnormal cells.
Those are pre-cancer cells.
Yes, so the pre-cancer cells. So, so at least, like I said, if once you detect it, it's easy for you to do something about it. What's your message to the women who are in the offices?
I want to tell you, so I personally, I walk into Cancer Diseases Hospital, and the radiographer is like, can you come and get checked? I said, oh yeah, I'm going to come. I'm just going to finish the meeting because I'm thinking, I talk about these things, so it's fine, And I walk into Cancer Diseases Hospital and she's like, Doc, I think you're due to come, what? And I'm like, okay, yeah, because before, you didn't have a child and everything, so now I can do my mammo. And I go to have my mammogram done, and so I see the young girl who's looking, is taking her time, she's like, and I'm like, okay. And then she calls a more senior radiographer. She says, I think we need to move to ultrasound. And I knew that they had seen something. And my head is like, look, guys, I came for a meeting. This wasn't part of the meeting. I'm feeling fine. What are you talking about? So they finished. So they say, Doc, we're seeing something. So they show me, they do the mammogram. And then they show me the x-ray and they're like, I can see it. I said, Doc, there's something on the left breast. They said, yeah, there's something on your left breast. But it's not anything to worry. We look at the support and everything. My head is like, guys, we need to do a biopsy of this thing. And all of a sudden, I get back in my car. My driver is looking like, okay, we went for a meeting and now we're looking all serious and all that. So I called the breast surgeon. We now have specialized breast surgeons. I'm like, Doc, where are you? Says, I'm in Matera or anything. It says, I need to get checked. They've said there's nothing, but I need you to have a second look and have a look at this. And he says, okay, come through. I call my husband. He says, okay, let's go. We go in the next morning and he checked. He says, no, it's not something that we need to worry about. But the essence, and we do a biopsy, the biopsy results come out. Okay, we're good. So, but the essence is, I was just walking around thinking, my breasts are perfect. I can be walking around here. And that's the message. But whatever it was, if it was going to be found, it would be very early. Because the moment you start seeing the symptoms, then something has set in, it has set ground. So when you're feeling fine, that's the best time that you should be able to go. And that's what we want to tell the women. If it's this month of October, I always say, know your breasts, how they look, and how they feel. Just those things. How they look and how they feel. One day, 7 days after your periods, set it if you're still having your periods. If you've reached menopause, then you should be able to just pick any day, which is consistent, and check for your breasts. So we call it you know, self-breast awareness. Okay?
Mhm.
Self-breast awareness, we usually used to say self-breast examination, but we call it awareness. So that a woman can be aware about her breast health and be able to do something about it. That my, you know, there's no lump, my nipples are not retracted, there's no discharge, there's no pain, there's no swelling, there's no changing in color. It's the same for cervix. Cervix, even in its early stage when cancer of the cervix is setting, it has no symptoms.
No, it doesn't.
It has no symptoms. So they can go and find in the lab and say, doc, you've got the early stage cancer. The actual cancer in the early stage is silent. So when you start seeing the abnormal bleeding, start seeing the abnormal discharge, something has happened. Okay. So what we want to tell women, we've talked about lifestyles. You know, today I was thinking, okay, what are we going to talk about? Lifestyles. What are we eating? How are we living?
What causes cervical cancer?
So cervical cancer has got HPV, which is human papillomavirus. So there has to be the virus. When you go to breast...
You know the challenge is, the minute you just say virus, people don't want to be associated with anything that says virus. No, they'll find me, yeah, HPV, SARS,
HPV.
You know.
No, and actually we've started now in some centers, we are actually testing for HPV itself. So we can tell you are HPV positive. And the type of HPV that we are testing for now is actually the one that causes cancer. So you come in, we used to tell you you have visual inspection, acetic acid positive. We can see some abnormal things. Now we can actually say those abnormal things we're seeing, there's actually HPV on it. So this is only in a few centers, we're trying out in a few populations before we roll out, because it's expensive. And because WHO now, the World Health Organization, has an agenda, which is the elimination. Now we're not looking at controlling cervical cancer.
So it's elimination.
We're talking about elimination. So we've got a 2030 agenda, which is looking at elimination of cancer of the cervix. And we will be launching the global strategy has already been set. The target is that we should make sure that 70% of women by the ages of 35 and 45 have screened in their life. So
one of the, people tend to think, so if there's a young woman out there and she's never been sexually active, can they still go ahead? Because sometimes
no, so what we do normally, because of predominantly being sexually transmitted, it's a very common infection. It's a very common infection. Because it doesn't come with any symptoms. It passes. And you know, because it's a virus, the way you've seen COVID, some of you get it and it's mild. Some people have been walking around with COVID and they have no clue they actually had COVID and it has cleared itself. HPV can actually also create.
I'm looking at something, so is it, I mean, I know the guys will probably think, but is it the other gender or is it both?
So it's a chicken and egg.
Okay.
There will be the reservoir, but you see, HPV does not have the devastating effect on the male organs.
Oh, I see. Okay.
As it has on the cervix. And that is because your cervix is warm and moist and it's in a hidden place. Whereas, you know, in the other gender, everything is outside and the temperatures are not that good and the virus is going to go off. But that doesn't mean that they can transmit. We do get penile cancer.
Okay.
But very rare.
Very rare, all right.
Very rare. Even in Zambia, it's a few cases that are seen. But we get more of cancer of the cervix. That's why when we tilt vaccination, we tilt it towards women. It's the most common cancer this country faces. About a third of the cancer cases is because of cervix. So,
I know you've shared stories of women in the rural areas where the minute that she is found with, you know, cervical cancer, it was her problem, and there's no support from the husband. Is that
breast?
Even the breast. Can you imagine? It should be her problem. What would you say to the men folk out there, if there's anybody listening? But also, I mean, just to educate them a little bit. Like, it's not really her fault. You know, I know that marriages have ended, especially in the rural areas. Is that also prevalent
in urban areas equally?
Really?
So just so you know, I think when you look at women's health in totality, there's a lot of power dynamics that go into it. Power relationships. When you look at that, you find that there's actually gender inequity when it comes to women's health. And you find that if you look at diseases, even in Zambia, they have the face of a woman, the face of a child and a woman. If you're looking at who malaria is going to attack most, it's an under 5 child, it's a pregnant woman. If you look at cervix, it's in women. Look at breast, it's in women. We get prostate at the heels. Yes, we get that. And then, so when you're looking at these diseases and the devastation, you find that women, if you look at HIV, infections are higher. When you look at the young adolescents, you know, we find that the ones up to 24, you find that the new infections are higher in the younger women than they are in the male counterpart.
Okay.
It's the power dynamics, power relationship, cultural inclinations, so we say. So some of these things, to talk to the men, it's about seeing the importance of a woman in society. And, you know, science has shown it. When you lose a woman, I always say the woman, if you go to a wedding, you have those centerpieces, lovely on a table, and they are the thing that you're seeing. That's a woman. She's the centerpiece. She's holding it all together. Everybody sees her. She's there. She's the pillar. When a woman is removed from a society because of a disease that we could have prevented, we talk about maternal mortality, women dying during pregnancy, or they die during childbirth, or they die, you know, after delivery. And so those children, the potential of them being what they were supposed to be is reduced drastically. Some will fall out of school. They will never be what they were going to be if their mother was alive.
Yeah,
most of the time.
Most of the time, yeah.
And if you think about nutrition status, 64% of the women live in the rural area in this country. 80% of them are producers of food.
Wow.
So if you're going to lose women, you know, to malaria, you're going to lose women to cervical cancer, you're going to lose women to breast, you're compromising your food security as a nation. It goes to your development. The future children are affected because maybe they'll be malnourished, there will be stunting, and with stunting comes an ability to learn or to be able to achieve because, you know, we've compromised all that. That is why it's important to keep her alive. That is why the husbands, partners should make sure they keep them alive. And it's not a woman's fault. I could have gotten HPV from
you,
the other gender. We are in this together.
Yes.
And you will see that women, even for treatment, you know, some women will come in and we find them with early, you know, abnormal cells for cervix, and we want to treat, and she'll be like, let me go and ask my husband.
Yes, because
I'll
of
be
that.
back.
Yes.
Because of abstaining.
Yeah, because it will be 6 weeks, actually.
6 weeks
yes,
abstinence
yes,
from having sex, and they will be like, I'll be back. The husband is told, one of them almost beat me because the wife just went to, the doctor says there'll be no sex for the next 1 month. And then he comes to my office, who gives you the right to...
Sorry.
No, I'm a Ruzwamba. So, you know, so it's just like...
It's still not a woman.
She went out fine. And then the doctor, because the woman just says, Kulia hospital, and it's done. You know, so you're at my office and trying to figure out who gives you the right to give such rules. So when they go and they haven't gotten treated, believe me, 80 to 90% of the time they will never come back. When they're going to come back, it's probably when cancer has set in and they can't keep it at home anymore. The other devastating effect is that I remember having a patient, early cancer, actual cancer setting, and the diagnosis done says we're going to take her into theater and ensure that, you know, we take out and the cancer is done. And she disappeared. 3 years later, she comes with this heavy file, barely walking, and she's referred, and so she walks into my office. And they go, oh, how are you? So she's like, I'm sick, and she's been held by relatives, and we're talking. So I read through her file. I said, my daughter, you have to do something. I'm not well, and what? I'm sick. I said, okay, we're going to see. So I review the file. I see the file. And after that, it's advanced. It's gone everywhere. It's in the lungs. It's in the liver. And then I see that we actually saw her 3 years ago. Mwalikwisa. And she says, how about we so bad it one? So to buy him for we know. So now if I faced Vapole.
And then, oh wow. Oh wow.
That's gender. So, you know, so to her, the husband had a chronic disease, maybe hypertensive or something. But she says, I couldn't leave him. I needed to make sure he gets well. Then I come. So, but we said, this is going to spread. It's not staying here. If you stay away, it's going to spread. So we get such cases. That's not, you know, anything. We get abandonment through, no, she's got no breasts, so she can no longer be my wife. I want a woman who has both breasts. But if we keep the breast, she's dead. We need to take it out so that we take the cancer with it. If we take out the uterus, the cancer is removed. And you tell her, no, you've got no uterus, you're no longer a woman, I'm going to find another woman who has everything.
But you know, interestingly, even if they've stopped having children, but he will insist that you don't have a uterus. I mean...
Like you're half, no, you're not a full woman because you've got no uterus, because you've got no breasts. And that is the education that needs to go through. Yeah. But we've had some amazing young couples, and young couples for that matter, who've come, stayed with each other through it, and says, look, she's my wife. She needs to get better. You know, the kids at home are waiting. I'm going to be here. Rare. And those are the people who should stand out. And the response to treatment by the partner, if the disease is caught early, is amazing.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Is amazing because they have this social support.
Yeah. So
they just want to get better because the family support is there. Because your husband, your partner is standing by you and saying, it doesn't matter, uterus or no uterus, I want you alive.
You say something very cardinal, that it's about the men realizing the importance of a woman. And I think, like you say, maybe what needs to happen is if you can have the success, can I call them success stories?
Yes.
Yes. If we can have the success stories where you have this couple, young, who can actually just come out and say, this is, I held her hand through this and you can, because I understand, and what you've just spoken about is very key. If she's sick, the homestead is affected.
Yes.
Everything else is affected. So it's getting the men to understand the importance of a woman in their lives. And it won't, you know, like...
I think just society needs to understand that if we lose women, you know, if we're going to lose women, not that losing men doesn't matter, it matters, but if we're going to lose women, they are the bearers, they are the custodians of culture, you know, morals. There are a lot of things that go there, you know, because I'm the one who's telling my child, hey, that's not how you greet people, you go back. That's not how you treat people. Most of the time.
Most of the time, yes.
Okay? You're the one who's sitting and saying, did you do your homework? Can we make sure that you've read? If I'm not there to check that, you know, then if a woman is not there to check that, that means that part of ensuring that the child has done their homework, you've talked to the teacher and said, what's going on? Why is this child falling back? How can we improve things? And all that. Men will go there sometimes and go, no, my child is intelligent. Yeah, I don't understand. Why did you underback my child? But most of the time you want to go in and say, okay, teacher, what exactly is going on here?
That's right,
no, I think you need to support this child. Is weak in this subject and that, and you work at it, and your children see this push of you wanting them to be better, and they will contribute to society. But most of all, women shouldn't be dying of diseases that can be prevented, diseases that are curable, treatable. We need to make sure that that doesn't happen. If there's a percentage that falls through the cracks, it's going to be the minimum. We shouldn't have the majority going through the cracks. And you know, other than cancer, there are many things that we keep thinking about you know, of how even our society, not just men, but the way society views some of the things, how we've been taught straight from menstrual hygiene for young girls, how the poverty of menstrual hygiene, them not being able to have. But I never thought about it until I went into a rural area, and girls like they can't go to school. It's a reality, and you might take it for granted. That's why you want to pass laws that can, you know, have these girls ensuring that they have these things. So we want to make sure they are in school. We shouldn't penalize people. If I don't have my menses, the children wouldn't have come. The children wouldn't have come through. So I'm part of the procreation. I'm part of the development. Don't penalize me for that part. Don't penalize a young girl for that. And so, and there's some things, even culturally, you know, a girl, I was talking about, you know, a young woman can be saying, oh no, the periods are bad, they sleep, they're what, they can barely talk, they get severe period pains. It could be the start of endometriosis, but because of the culture of, keep quiet, their periods, don't talk about that.
Don't talk about it, yeah.
Then you find infertility later, you know, because we took it for granted. Preconception. We don't talk about, we just get pregnant, you know. We just get pregnant no matter how educated. And it happens. And dare not go into the clinic. How many of us walked in a clinic and went and saw a doctor and said, we want to get pregnant?
No,
we don't even say we want. They'll say, she wants to get pregnant. Yeah, the cover. She wants to get pregnant. So you're trying to, we need to change the noun. It's our child. I'm just carrying, but that child has you. Yeah. So we want to get pregnant. The reason why we need to talk about preconception, they are diseases that I could be walking around with, which have got so much modern science has made leeway, and we can do something about it, or we can make, you know, something better. You could be having pre-existing diseases. You could be hypertensive. You could be diabetic. You could have had,
sickle cell and all those carriers. Yes.
And you could even, you could have blood problems. We have what is known as rhesus negative, and we could just check what is your blood type, so that we know. But when you're pregnant and you've come in, and then even me on my first pregnancy, I was like, walking in, lady, what am I going to be doing?
No, but we just.
But you need to walk in. We need to walk in. Yeah. You know, the poorest attended antenatal is the one which we say in the first trimester, those, you know, 12 weeks. Yeah. Yes.
But no, but first of all, the cultural background to that is that you're not supposed to talk about
it
in the first 3 months. Nobody should know.
Nobody should know. And then you are grooming problems in the nobody should know. Maybe we can find out that your cervix is incompetent. It can't hold the baby, and we can be able to do something about it and tell you, hey, from these measurements, there could be a problem with the cervix that we've seen. And you lose the baby because you didn't come early. You were waiting for it to show, and then you can't hold. And then you've got cervical incompetence, which we could have done something about it. Like I said, you could be a candidate who starts developing sugar, blood sugar getting raised, diabetes, during pregnancy. Okay? You could be, there's something and you can't actually conceive, but if you came early, we can try to do the test, do the hormones, and say, hey, there's a problem here, and we can sort it out this way. You are a candidate for helping you in this way. So those are things that we need to talk about. But they say, if
yes.
No, not when I got pregnant, I told my husband, don't go out and start saying, oh, no, she's expecting, my mother will kill me, you know. But that's the culture, and the health system equally needs to respond. In provinces where we have high attendance in the first trimester, they've got low maternal deaths.
Really? Oh, wow. So now, you know, like you tend to think, so is there any stigma around, I mean, obviously there's stigma.
They're scared that they'll steal the pregnancy.
Okay.
But sometimes you can, you know, there's also a chemical pregnancy. They haven't stolen, you can test positive, and then it just, you know, you lose that pregnancy. It's a chemical pregnancy. But culture is that the moment you talk about it, either something will be wrong with the baby, or this pregnancy is going to go out. You lose it. So keep quiet. But in your keeping quiet, and most of us now, the other thing is we're having children because we've got this education which is making us, it's a positive in that we're getting economic empowerment, we're independent women, but we're also doing all this work. I know one of my mentors said, you know, Sharon, she said, for a woman, career rivals biological clock.
It does.
You understand?
Yeah,
it's just like that. At the time that I'm supposed to be climbing, it's the time, you know, the children are also like, or people are saying, children, you know. So there's a rivalry. You're going up the tide, you know. So those are issues that you need, and that is why as KUPES young women, choosing a partner is critical.
I was going to ask her, because I call her a late bloomer.
I'm like, yeah, when was my first child? 30, okay.
30 something.
Above 35.
You're above 35. She got married way above 35.
Above 35.
Above 35.
I just stopped under 5, yeah.
So, yeah,
2 years ago.
at least you
yeah.
could rest. So now, you were able to navigate that. What helped? Because I'm sure the others were sitting here, she's 30 and she's thinking, yeah, panicking, 32, 33. What helped?
So pressure shouldn't be there, because pressure makes you do all sorts of things. And one of the things that we keep gender-based violence, emotional, physical. In rushing into those relationships, you find that you get yourself into GBV, financial, emotional, mental, and all that, which doesn't help at the end. What has helped the career? My husband has really helped my career in accepting that I'm just a person who goes and gets it. Family support, even to the extent I tell women, I lost my lovely, house help. She was family for over 11 years, and she knew we had a rhythm. She knew what needed to be done. The kids, if I'm in a meeting, she knew that the kids haven't come. This is late. And she knew when to call the drivers if the kids are not here.
That's right.
Or the secretary at the office, like, the kids are not here, So there's that, you have to create that social support as somebody who's having kids late, or just anybody who's in a very versatile career that you have to be in meetings. It's been my family, been there, my sister coming, okay, go. You're leaving for 2 weeks, okay, I'm going to take time off and just try to show, or bring these children, pack, let's go, a bit disruptive at times, but you get an amazing person who's helping you in the house as well. And women have to know that even the relationships with the people who help us in our house, their family, it needs to be a good relationship. Treat them as human beings. They are actually the most important people that you're having. They know when your child is sick, sometimes I'm not here, and my husband would go, and my nanny would just explain everything. The doctor just, so what happened to this child? Okay, he had a fever, this was a temperature, and da. Maybe I haven't seen that child in the 3 hours that these things occurred, but she's going to give it an utmost. So there has to be that relationship. Choose wisely. Treat them as human beings. And if we are Christians, that's where Christianity comes in.
That's right. Yeah.
You can't be a Christian preaching on Sunday and your nanny doesn't even want to enter church because of the way you treat her.
Oh, wow.
You can't. The two things just don't agree. You can't be all there and living everything, but the way you treat the people you work with is different. So to succeed in a career is a lot of social support. It's a partner knowing that this is who I've married and this is what they are capable of, and not stepping in each other. And you appreciating that this person has helped me to grow and has given me room is important.
Yeah. Do you think our young women, I won't say young women, our young people are rushing and compromising, and because the clock is ticking, you said it's very important for you, for that marriage partner. What sort of conversations should they have as they're dating or as they're in courtship?
The conversation about children needs to come.
Okay.
Sometimes we keep it like, if I talk about it, he's going to think, what the heck, do you want to have children, or are you going to have, how old you are? Working in interracial organizations, but also traveling and having friends from around the globe, is that you find they are more forthcoming in some of these things. Some of my friends would just come out. I remember a friend of mine was like, I'm going to reach 35. I haven't really met, anybody who's there to that I feel I should have a child. I'm not ready. So I'm going to harvest my eggs. I'm looking at her like, what are you talking about? I'm going to harvest my eggs so that I keep them. When I find the right person, I'm going to get them. They're there so that I don't let my biological clock determine. But those are cultural, spiritual issues that Zambia needs to bring to the fore. Harvest, go and put them in a bank, and when she's ready, and she just told me, I'm not going to gosh, I'm not going to get married because I feel that these things can be kept and they will be good as when they harvested them. Because the older you grow, the other frustration, I mean, infertility is something that we haven't talked about. The older somebody is growing, the fertility is also dropping. Even the men produce, you know, the abnormality of the sperm is also increasing. The women, the eggs are also, you know, reducing. So as we are seeking our career and we have intentions of having children or creating a family, some people are like, I don't want to have children. That's fine if you've reached that place where you've decided and you are content. It's about fulfillment. And then there are people who are getting desperate, and then at the end of the day when they find a partner, they are 48, they're 50, try to harvest the eggs, they are gone, and becomes a frustration. We have to talk about issues of adoption.
So there's a lot actually that the conversations are, I mean, I just sit here, like, there's so many things that we need to do.
Yes, with
other.
us going out, go-getting, which I think women empowerment, for me it's P1. If I see a woman selling avocados by the road, I feel like, how this shinga man, 100 because I just here, go home. I just feel like I just need her to have, you know, income and do something, whether I'm going to give other people that, because I firmly believe that an empowered woman will have choices about her health. She can make decisions. She can be able to contribute. She will not be getting into relationships because she does as a financial investment, but getting it because we are...
yes, we're partners in that.
Yes, she will look after her health. She's going to do better. So I really feel as we are go-getting, there's also a science to it. What are we going to talk about? We've been doing infertility and talking about, that's a whole new level of discussion about how society puts infertility on you and me.
Yes, but you know, in fact, I just remember this. You remember at the MEC Foundation, the
Yes.
launch and all, and there was this woman who was, you know, stigmatized and frustrated because
And she had her hands cut in
yeah,
Kenya.
in Kenya, and
But
she
we had
her
a young
hands
woman
cut.
who committed suicide in Zambia because she says, I just can't take it anymore.
Wow.
She killed herself. Because society, I can't take it anymore. I go, everybody's talking about me not having children, I haven't produced, my husband doesn't come home. There was a whole lot, you know, of it. But she killed herself. I've killed myself because I haven't been able to do this. So, you know, like I have said, if you go in the rural areas, even with, I always say that sometimes I have to ask, what's the name for an infertile man? You know, in local languages, because I can find 1 million for an infertile woman. And it isn't, people ask me, have you become a radical feminist? So it isn't about being a feminist.
Because you've seen the struggles.
It's not
yes.
about, I mean, feminism is just ensuring. I like what, you know, RBG said, wherever decisions are being made, women should be there.
We should be there.
We should be there. And men shouldn't feel that this is a fight. It shouldn't be a fight. We're not fighting. It's about complementing. I bring something to the table. I'm 50% of this society.
That's right.
Why don't you want me to have a voice in parliament? Why don't you want me to have a voice in the financial institution? Why don't you want me to have a voice in my church? Why don't you want me to have a voice wherever decisions are being made? I should be there.
That's right. This is fantastic.
So it shouldn't just be about 30%. We need to go beyond 30%. So at the end of the day, as we wind up.
Before you even wind up, actually, we might not even wind up. But so for checkups, how often should we do checkups? I like the idea that now you're going to have, what did you call it, market health?
Yes.
Yes, so you'll be going to the markets. But now for me, or anybody out there.
You know, in the Netherlands, pap smears were being done. There's just a truck that would come parked in a certain street for a certain, and they even knew it's regular. It's part of public health. We need to move to there so that you can come out of your house, go and have your pap smear in that van.
How often should I do? Like,
so you're going to,
like, okay, what are the main things
if it's breasts, by the time you're reaching 20, we want you to have breast awareness. that you need to know the symptoms of breast cancer.
Okay.
You need to know about a lump, abnormal lump which has not always been there. You need to know about the bloody discharge. You need to know about you know, the swelling of the breast that you have. And when you're 20, by the time you're, you know, getting, we want a mammogram is 40, but the national guidelines that we are doing right now, what we have set as policy as government is early diagnosis. We want you to know and run, you know. When you see something wrong, we want you in. So that, because we know the outcomes that's been done in Tanzania, where they just taught the women, these are the signs. And we do what is called downstaging. So they reduce the number of women who are coming in with advanced disease radically in that area, just letting them know the symptoms. So 40 mammogram every year. Breast awareness.
At least twice a year or once a year?
Once a year.
Once a year.
Every
Okay.
year. Cervix. So we're telling you every 3 years we're going to screen you. Find you negative, we're going to screen you. Find you positive, we treat you, we'll come back in a year. Or, as the nurse will go and tell you once you're there, if it's a population that they feel they should see you more often, they'll be able to tell you. Okay. So those are the guidelines. When we do HPV testing, we'll probably be looking at 5 years. You're negative, we're going to see you 5 years.
Time, yeah.
So we stagger it so that if you come 3 times in your lifetime, it's fine. So, yeah, so that's what, eat healthy. Our lifestyles, that's another, you know, thing altogether. What we eat, how we live, physical activity. My mom would go into a field and do something, harvest, you know, prepare the field. They were burning energy.
Yes, they were.
That's why they were
just talking about it today.
That's why they were not obese.
Yes, because they were busy.
And I never had, my mom died in her 70s, no hypertension, no diabetes. Even in the village, that's the same. But which is different with us. All of a sudden you have friends who are drinking drugs because they've been found with blood pressure. Yeah, well, it's not blood pressure. The next day, do a BP. Sugar. You know, it's some of those things that we need to look into. You have to, because all the food you're eating is just settling. And if you go, now, I mean, Noreen and I have probably gone through, you know, starting menses, having children. We are headed to the other side. Yeah, not the other side. And what it means that postmenopausal women are, if you are obese, you have a higher risk of breast cancer, you know. So overweight does put you at a higher risk, because what happens is that then the fat can easily go into estrogen. So you have this, you know, peripheral circulation of fat, which can be converted, which puts you at a higher risk of breast cancer. And so you want to make sure, if you're postmenopausal or you've reached menopause, check your weight. Have the right weight that you're doing. We've seen a lot of colon cancer. You've heard about it. Red meat has been associated, processed meat, that has been associated with cancer of colon. I tell you, even the people who keep cattle do not eat it at the rate you and I are consuming it. If you go in the villages, it's a wedding, a funeral, or they see that this cattle is old or what, and that's when they eat it. So why are you eating it every day?
Okay, yeah. We can go on.
We can go on and on and on. The only, just to wind up, is just to say, in life, find your purpose. Find what you love. You're only passing this way once. And in a corporate style, came here to work. We mean business. Changing lives.
We have to change lives.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been amazing.
You know what? Oh my goodness. So this is Dr. Kapambwe, who is the Assistant Director. Cancer control at the Ministry of Health. I mean, you can see the banter. Like I said earlier, we've been friends for a very long time. But this has been a very informative conversation. And I think anybody who's sitting out there is trying to say, okay, fine, I haven't done this in a while. It's not a death sentence. Please go out there and get yourself checked. she's brought out a lot of pertinent issues, the importance of women. And she's talked about energy management, you know, like it's not about time management, it's about managing your energy, the foods that you eat, the things that you drink, and also just keeping yourself healthy. But most importantly, she's talked about our humanity and saying that you cannot be a person who goes to church but do horrible things to other people. So our spirituality must be demonstrated through humanity. So we need to make sure that we just love.
We just love. And you know, work, I've realized success, working, whatever you're doing is about loving people.
It's love. If
I just see a woman and I'm like, oh, I hope she's gotten screened. You just love people.
Just love people.
Whoever
so
they
love people. It's been absolutely amazing. And yeah, so we'll see you next time. Have a good day and God bless.